the Cowboys and Micah Parsons have been backlashing at each other for the last couple of weeks. Micah Parsons, who has his own podcast, has gone out and taken shots at Jerry Jones, taking shots at the organization, not doing right by him, not sitting down and having a conversation with him on possibly getting him back and him making the kind of money T.J. Watt or Myles Garrett got earlier this offseason. A lot of questions to, obviously, a guy like Micah Parsons, who's come out over and over and over again, throwing his teammates under the bus many, many times this past season. Gone out there and not doing the right thing as a Cowboy. You know that the Cowboys organization are very back and forth with a lot of different fans. The Philadelphia fans don't like them. The Giant fans don't like them. The Washington Commander fans don't like them, being that they're in the NFC East. And there are a lot of other teams that don't like the Dallas Cowboys and the Cowboy fans because of the way Cowboy fans portray their team to be. This is a Cowboy team that hasn't won in almost 30 years, a little bit over 30 years. And a team that came out with a Netflix documentary. And Jerry Jones, I think, looking like the good guy for the NFL, a guy that has stuck out like a sore thumb for a team that has really developed ways to bring in money for the NFL. You look at the TV deals that a lot of these teams have and look at the organization as a whole. The Cowboys are very well respected when it comes to the money end of the NFL. Roger Goodell has come out and taken applause to a guy like Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, who's done many different things that maybe pissed owners off, but has brought a significant amount of money back to the NFL and in sponsorships and advertisements. The Nike deal that he made years and years ago, bringing Nike and then fighting with the NFL and owners and almost losing his team. A lot of stories behind what Jerry Jones has done for his team and his organization. And Jerry Jones is the kind of guy that keeps his players. He doesn't really let players go. You look at guys like Deion Sanders, signed his long-term deal with the Cowboys. The thought was Deion Sanders was going to be a Cowboy for life. You look at Emmitt Smith before he left the Cowboys and played 2 years with Arizona. Emmitt Smith, his whole career was the Cowboys. And before he retired, he wanted to retire as a Cowboy. So he signed a day contract with the Cowboys. If you look at guys like Michael Irvin or Troy Aikman, these guys retired as Cowboys. These guys were the face of the organization. And you can see it in that documentary if you haven't checked it out on Netflix. Jerry Jones has kept a lot of his superstars in his organization. One of the reasons why is he stands by his team. He stands by his players. But for some reason, Micah Parsons over the last couple of months, last couple of weeks, has taken shots at the owner and taken shots at the executives of the round table of the Cowboys, taking shots at Jerry Jones' sons, saying that he deserves just as much money as T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett, as he should. He's 25 years old in the prime of his career, and I believe that Jerry Jones was trying to make a deal. But Jerry Jones, he went to Micah Parsons. He didn't speak to the agent, and the agent was not very happy with Jerry Jones because Micah Parsons has stood very strong about his agent. He's come out after he was traded to the Green Bay Packers that he would stand by his agent. His agent is everything to him. And he didn't go to his agent. He didn't speak to his agent. And that pissed off, obviously, David, his agent, and Micah Parsons. And when this trade happened, a lot of people, and I know we're going to get Fish on in a little while, and Fish is going to have his own thoughts, thinking that maybe the Green Bay Packers won this trade. I know that Josh Silverberg, who's been on this show many, many times and has called this show, and he has his own show on our network, has said that the Green Bay Packers won this trade. Now, I go back to what I believe the fact that Micah Parsons is and the personality he is. When you take on a responsibility to have a guy like this with your organization, and you run by the different personalities the Cowboys have had over the years, like I mentioned, Deion Sanders and Michael Irvin, and even Emmitt Smith. We all know the story about Emmitt Smith. Remember the contract dispute that he had with Jerry Jones before he signed that contract? The year that they were 0-2 and they were falling apart, and Emmitt Smith signed the contract, I think, in his third or fourth game because Jerry Jones knew that if he didn't sign Emmitt Smith, the season was going to fall flat on their face. But the organization knew that Emmitt Smith was a big part of the organization, and he wanted to spin the wheel and make the deal. It doesn't always work like that. And knowing that Micah Parsons is everything to this defense has no back end to it. Their secondary with Trayvon Diggs. Are you going to bet on Trayvon Diggs staying healthy all season long? Do they have enough depth on the front seven to get at the quarterback on any other team? This team is going to be predominantly an offensive team, adding a guy, with CeeDee Lamb and Pickens. The fact that this organization and what this organization stands for, Dak Prescott has more pressure on him this season offensively. And I also look at the fact that Micah Parsons was pushing fast on where he wanted to go. He mentioned that he would go to Green Bay. He mentioned he wanted to go to the LA Rams. He mentioned a lot of different things. The problem right now is, when you look at Micah Parsons, is Micah Parsons worth right now $46 million? Is he worth the $46 million that the Green Bay Packers gave him? If they don't win a championship in the next 2 to 3 years, and he is 25 and he is in the prime of his career, are we going to go back on this trade? And depending on who the Cowboys draft with those picks, do they draft a quarterback? Do they move up and get the player of their choosing, or a defensive player, or 2 or 3 defensive players from the player of Micah Parsons' stature?
How hurt do you think he really is, and why didn't he say anything?
I don't think he's that hurt. And I again, something of a back injury of this magnitude, which we've heard, he could take pills, he can get a shot. I mean, he's going to play this year. He's going to give you 12 and a half, 13 sacks on a bad season, especially with the Green Bay Packers front seven as good as it is. This is not a bad defense. The Green Bay Packers were a top 10 defense last year. You had Micah Parsons, automatically you're a top 3, top 4 defense. Micah Parsons adds you that pass rusher. You can move all over that line. We saw what Dan Quinn did with the Cowboys over the years when he was the defensive coordinator. Micah Parsons could be moved as a linebacker, a defensive end. You can move him inside. You're going to have to double team Micah Parsons. And with the players in the big front seven that they have, he's going to cause havoc over there with the Green Bay Packers. And the Packers are in a very good division. They have the Lions, they have the Chicago Bears, and they have the Minnesota Vikings. So they needed to make a big move and a big splash. This is a big move and a big splash, but you're putting all your eggs in this basket. Now, if it's wrong, and Micah Parsons is a cancer. Now, Micah Parsons is a good player, but if you ask any Cowboy fan over the last 2 seasons, including Nathan, who's a diehard Cowboy fan, do you want to deal with Micah Parsons' crap? Do you want to deal with that in the locker room? Do you want to deal with the fact that this guy causes more trouble than it's worth? And Jerry Jones is a guy that stands behind these guys. Think about the past. He brought Greg Hardy in. Greg Hardy, who beat the hell out of his girlfriend, almost killed her, signed him to a long-term deal. I think it was a 3-4 year deal. So it's not like a guy like Jerry Jones is not going to go out there and give a guy another chance. He's done it many, many times. Jerry Jones has brought players to his team that have caused trouble on and off the field and took chances with them. And some of them panned out, some of them not. But again, he's a guy that likes to take chances on players. When Micah Parsons is a guy that was his very own, his draft pick, a guy that he went after in the draft and made him his own. When the Giants passed up on him, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, 8 or 9 other teams passed up on Micah Parsons, the Cowboys did not. The Cowboys went after him, brought him in, and he's become one of the top 5 pass rushers, one of the elite pass rushers in the league. But it still bothers me, if you're a Cowboy fan right now, it would bother me right now because you're going into a season where your defense is not going to be very good, and you look at the Green Bay Packers. You add Micah Parsons to that team right now. Are they the best team in the NFC with Micah Parsons? Are the Eagles still the elite team that we're going to be talking about all season? Because the Eagles' defense might even be better than it was last year with the additions that they added. And they lost Sweat. They did lose 2 defensive players, but they also added defensive players, and they drafted very, very well, as they always do. Going back to the Eagles. Are the Eagles now going to be challenged by the Green Bay Packers? And even with the Green Bay Packers adding Micah Parsons, are they the best in their conference? Or, are they the best in their division? Not just the conference. That's the question.